I come on here and tell you when I'm wrong. I also get to come on here and tell you when I'm very right. This is the most right that one can possibly be. I picked Oklahoma to win. I picked them to cover. They were one of my best bets of the week. And I picked them to beat Michigan 24-13. I did a triple check before I came on and did this segment. And Oklahoma beat Michigan 24-13. And in my show on Friday, I talked about how Bryce Underwood might have a tough time against an Oklahoma defense on the road. First time he's started a game away from Ann Arbor. Yeah, this could be tough. Oh, look at that. Bryce Underwood, 9 of 24 passing the ball. I'm not here to tell you that Michigan stinks. I said Michigan was overrated a while ago. I think I'm right. I don't think they're a horrible team. They weren't a horrible team last year. They just had a horrible passing game. And I think they are right to invest in Bryce Underwood and allow him to grow and develop within the system. And if they can go and get some portal wide receivers in the offseason, unless they feel like they have young guys that are not ready now but will be ready next year, believe that when I see it, they can go find some high-end portal wide receivers, kind of like Penn State did this past year when they went and got Trevor Pena from Syracuse. They went and got Kyron Hudson from USC. If they can find guys like that, then guess what? I might pick Michigan to win the Big Ten in 2026 with Bryce Underwood back there. I might. I said might. I didn't say I'm going to. I said I might. So I was very right on this particular game. And I think Michigan's still in a good position as a program. I think Sharon Moore's still a good in-game coach. This was just a really, really difficult spot to be in. Now, I could very easily, and my guys, John Williams and Jay Smith of Locked On Sooners, would probably like me to come on here and say how much I think Oklahoma is an SEC title contender, and they were underrated, and they could make the college football playoff. And I have not changed my opinion one bit on the Oklahoma Sooners. This game played out exactly as I expected. This is a good lean win outcome to me. But this is not, let's throw a party in Norman because we're going to the playoff on the back of John Mateer. John Mateer was not just, as you might expect, the leading passer for Oklahoma in this game. He threw for way more yardage than Bryce Underwood was able to, 270 to 142 to be exact. John Mateer was the leading rusher for Oklahoma in this game. That model is not sustainable. Now, is Oklahoma the question you got to ask? Because Michigan's got a good defense, even though they lost guys to the NFL. Their personnel still good, not as good. One of the reasons I'm lower on Michigan than most this year. Are you going to play a lot of defenses that are of Michigan's caliber that can take away your running backs? Because the running backs were a non-factor in the game. Michigan took them out of the picture. The Wolverines only ran for 8 more yards than the Sooners did. That's because John Mateer's legs were a factor. Now, that's one of the reasons that he was the top quarterback to move schools in the transfer portal this offseason coming over from Washington State. So it's not as if this is going away. Here is what I wonder. Number 1, can you sustain an offense that produces enough when your quarterback is expected to be your leading rusher? Now, you can be a good team and have that approach. Georgia Tech is a notable example here. Georgia Tech runs Haynes King a lot. And Georgia Tech's a good team, my ACC dark horse. They also play in the ACC, which has some good elite trenches up front that can bang you up like Miami and Clemson. But overall, what I have noticed significantly, as much as any other year I can remember, the difference between the ACC and the programs that they are losing to, mostly in the SEC, is up front. Is the SEC looks a lot better. A lot better. And that's not going to surprise a lot of people. But the gap this year has been rather profound. So when I talk about Georgia Tech as an ACC title contender, I look at them and say, yeah, in that conference, I think they can. But Oklahoma ran John Mateer 19 times in this football game for 74 yards and 2 touchdowns. And situationally, that's not going to go away. John Mateer's not going, just because they're going up against an SEC opponent, he's not going to have to say to his offensive coordinator, Ben Arbuckle, who he knows from his time at Washington State, no, coach, we can't I can't run in the red zone here. That's always going to be there. Are you going to run John Mateer 19 times every single game for the rest of the year? Are you going to run him 15 times or more every single game for the rest of the year? I certainly hope not. That is a recipe to get your quarterback dinged up. And if he gets hurt, we know that Oklahoma is not going to be okay. All is not okay in Oklahoma if John Mateer gets hurt. Turns out that's like most places where you lose your starting quarterback and things get progressively worse. Now, the next logical question is, where does Oklahoma face a similar sort of challenge where you have a front four that can negate your running game because that Oklahoma offensive line has been rebuilt? It's improved. It did not look elite. Maybe it gets better, but it did not look elite. And how often can you rely on John Mateer to go for 300 to 350 yards passing to get you to the college football playoff or the SEC championship game? So that's what I wonder. Where does the running game come from for Oklahoma outside of the quarterback? By the way, for me personally, I think the mood in Ann Arbor should be no vibe change from last week. This is exactly what I expected. You lost a game on the road that you should lose. Your young quarterback did some good things. Yeah, that's fine. Season's not over. Even if you're someone that thinks Michigan should be a playoff team this year, okay. That hope is still within reach because we have a 12-team playoff now. But here are the list of teams that I would be concerned to watch Oklahoma go up against and try to run John Mateer 15 to 20 times over and over and over again. They play Auburn in the Jackson Arnold return trip in 2 weeks. That's going to be fun. They play Texas in Red River. Nasty front four. Front seven, frankly, is one of the best in all of college football. South Carolina has got dudes up front. Ask Virginia Tech how good they can be. Not as worried about Ole Miss. Tennessee, good. I'll say Tennessee, good. Alabama, I don't know what to be afraid of with Alabama right now, if anything at all. Missouri, okay. And then LSU the last week of the regular season at home. Did you watch their defense against Clemson? I did. They looked fast. They looked physical. They looked really, really good. So while I love this outcome for Oklahoma, not just because it is literally exactly what I predicted, but because the Sooners have been rewarded in this moment for making the sorts of moves that were necessary in the offseason after what happened last year. And with Venables coaching this season for his job, he went out there and won a game that he had to win. Wasn't going to be easy. It wasn't. But he got it done. And so now the question becomes, okay, you have the floor that I saw in Oklahoma coming into this year. Where can you get your ceiling to? And to me, that's going to come down to whichever one of these running backs emerge. You can't have in a big game this stat line from your backs. John Mateer carried it 19 times for 74 yards. If you take that out of the Oklahoma rushing attack from this past game against Michigan, there were 21 carries for, doing some quick math in my head, so forgive me here. Wait for it, 64 yards. 21 carries, 64 yards for everybody not named John Mateer. If Oklahoma corrects that, then we can talk about the SEC championship and the college football playoff. Until then, they are good, but they are not great. Appreciate everyone listening. I will see you next time. And until then, hope you all have a wonderful rest of your day.